Hey everybody, I'm recording this assignment guide for two things that are due on Tuesday, May 12th, and as you can see I've got over here the personal narrative packet open in Schoology over on the other side over here. You'll need them both. I've got two example personal narratives to take a look at in the next several days. The first one is here. It's a chunk out of Richard Wright's autobiographical novel Black Boy. It's like, 4 pages or so. It's the first example. To go along with that, you're going to be asked to think about how stories are put together in terms of the plot, and all of these terms which you probably started to look up based on the previous assignment are going to come into play now. The second story is one by Gary Soto. It's called The Pie. It's a neat one-page story. Of course, it's single-spaced, followed by these questions here. You won't need to answer them here. I've got them set up in Schoology down below. These two assignments right here go along with Richard Wright's Streets of Memphis story and Gary Soto's The Pie. Here's what you have available to you. First of all, Gary Soto's The Pie is going to ask you specifically about the qualities of personal narrative, so we can start thinking about what does personal narrative look like, so that when you get to the point where you start writing your own, you'll have all the characteristics down, and maybe even in the back of your mind, so that you can put together the best piece of art that you can. Anyway, these are the qualities of personal narrative. For starters, it's autobiographical. Just an incident, though. It's an autobiographical incident. It's just the story of one incident or one moment from your life. And that's what you get out of both of these stories. This is just pages 14 through 18 in Richard Wright's novel, autobiographical novel, Black Boy. So it's just one moment out of his life. It's a short time period. Personal narratives are short, whether it's a single day or it's a single moment or it's a 5-minute period or it's a collection of 2 short moments that meaningfully go together. Personal narratives, they don't tell the story. It's the idea of showing the story, meaning that the writing is very descriptive, using senses. You smell things in personal narrative. You see things. You hear things. Dialogue is included. Spoken dialogue. Thinking dialogue inside your brain. And sometimes the moment that you're portraying or the moment that is being portrayed was so long ago, it's almost impossible to get the dialogue perfectly right. There are memory gaps that go along with some of the moments that you may be thinking of, and even the writers that you're reading probably experience memory gaps. They don't remember exactly what the dialogue is, but they've recreated it to the best of their ability without exaggerating or lying. Personal narratives are typically written in the first person, though later on in the unit you will see some that are written in third person, but typically it's a first person narration with a clear chronology. Doesn't necessarily mean that the story is going to move exactly from beginning to end. There are things like flash forward and flash back, tools that writers use in order to tell a chronological story with interruptions, such as flashback. And then probably one thing that makes the personal narrative is that usually there's some sort of lasting lesson or message to the reader, a sort of conclusion, a resolution, so to speak. And that's something that you'll develop in your own writing as well. So After you get done with the streets of Memphis, there are some questions on Schoology that are related to this idea of putting a story together. And actually, if you have not yet done all of the work for the vocabulary, then this Prezi is going to be useful to you. You can see I clicked on this link and it brought it up over here. And I'm stalling now because it's still loading. And this Prezi will guide you through the storytelling arc. So for instance, it'll tell you a little bit about, exposition. What's exposition? What's conflict? It's just a nice little lesson that you can move through at your own pace, just to remind you or teach you for the first time what these concepts are. I'll let you do that on your own, and then what will end up happening is that you'll go into this quiz. That's in air quotes, but it's worth credit. Streets of Memphis, you'll start a new attempt. I'm in my student account right now, so you can see what it will look like from your end. And then to answer some questions, like question 1 asks you about, who's the protagonist, and what's the setting, and in general, what's the exposition for this story. You can see that it's worth 3 points. This one's worth 1 point related to the antagonist. This one's worth 2 points related to the conflict. So I think there are 7 total questions that you'll submit by next Tuesday. Yes. Secondly, the questions for Gary Soto's The Pie are more closely related to this slide here in the packet. It's about the qualities of personal narrative. So as you read it, appreciate it, enjoy it. It is a good story. But these questions are a little bit different. They're not about storytelling. They're not about plot. It's more about, whether or not. Question 1, for instance, asks if, this piece would qualify as personal narrative. And that's based on your understanding of this simple slide right here. Why does it qualify as personal narrative, or why doesn't it, in your opinion? This one, question 2, asks you about, description. That's the same idea here. Talking about descriptive writing. What's descriptive specifically here? Question 2 asks you about the second paragraph. And I think there's 7 questions for this one as well. So that's your assignment for next Tuesday. It'll take you a little while because you got to read the stories, and then you got to answer the questions. You probably have to go back into the story, and you may have to do the plot diagram Prezi just to catch yourself up on some of the terms that you're being asked about. But it's totally doable. You can do it. Probably take you an hour and a half maybe. So I think that's it. I'm definitely going to be missing something. I don't know what. And if you did notice this, yes, I was looking up Kool-Aid Man earlier. So I don't want you to think that was like a little Easter egg in the video. I just totally forgot it was in that tab. That's it. That's all I can think of. Good luck.